day six. Day six of the Advent Gospel Challenge. It is December 6th. Today, incidentally, is the feast of St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas feast today. So if there was chocolate in your shoes this morning, it wasn't an accident. St. Nicholas had been to visit. So, happy St. Nicholas Day to you. Poor St. Nicholas, he pointed to Christ. He wanted to bring people to Christ, and he would be heartbroken to know how his namesake has taken over the feast of the Christ child. It's like when you throw a stick for a dog and the dog doesn't see where it went, and you point and the dog looks at the finger. What? No, stop looking at the finger. Stop looking at St. Nicholas. He's trying to point you to Jesus. But, well, there it is. There it is. It's all good, jolly fun. Although with St. Nicholas, not always so jolly. He actually slapped somebody for heresy. So look that one up. St. Nicholas punching people, right? Merry Christmas. At any rate, we are on the 6th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Luke. Now today I've just got my beat up old Bible. This was actually given to me. Well, to be perfectly honest, it was given to me twice. It was given to me when I was ordained a deacon, and then it was collected from me and given to me again when I was ordained a priest. There's a couple of things that have been pasted into the front here. They asked me to bring it in. I've taped it up and it's all coming loose. This is the one. It's my go-to, grabbing this, going out to do a funeral, at the graveside or at the funeral home, or a wedding, if it's a garden wedding or something like that. This is my go-to copy, and also my go-to in preparing hymns and things like that. I look up what the readings are for the Sunday, and I read them to make sure that the hymns have something to do with the gospel, at least, if not the other readings as well for the day. Anyway, you don't need to know that. We're talking about the 6th chapter. Now, the 5th chapter ended with the question about fasting, right? Well, why are John the Baptist's disciples fasting and yours aren't? This chapter, the 6th, begins with another question. People are beginning to pick at Jesus, and this is something that happens, right? If a teacher sets himself up and says, I have authority, I'm going to teach, other teachers are going to come along and say, yeah. In fact, there's a joke that what is the only thing that two academics can agree upon? How bad the work of the third academic is. Right, so there you go. At any rate, this one is about the Sabbath. And again, we're looking for purity, right? The people poking and prodding are seeking out purity. Why aren't you fasting? Your disciples aren't keeping pure. Why are you doing things on the Sabbath, specifically picking grain? As they walk along, they're picking grain. They're going through croplands and picking grain and eating a little bit of the grain, which normally, in our time, we'd call that theft. Stay out of my field. But was a grace allotted to travelers. But on the Sabbath, picking that grain is work, right? And so he is being questioned. Why are your disciples doing this? They're attempting to find holes so they can take him down a peg, okay? He, however, recalls the story of David, King David, who actually his men were hungry, and they took the bread from the temple to eat. So, these things are not... His point in saying this is there are always local applications to these things. These laws need to find their expression in a real lived situation. And again, remember, the Gospels are pointing toward the resurrection, right? Everything here is about life. It is about the wholeness and fullness of creation. And so anything that is limiting that is attempting to corral life and destroy life and bind life up, Jesus is arguing against. And now, not to go free for all, because a free for all and a sort of hedonistic life also trammels on life, right? That hedonism is also a detriment to life. So it's not anything goes, but he is relentlessly insisting that the law's application is for the sake of God's kingdom, not the other way around. The kingdom doesn't exist to enforce the laws. The laws are there to create the kingdom. So anyway, Then there is the healing of the man with the withered hand. And this really, let me say that slower because that was very fast. The healing of the man with the withered hand. And this is also a Sabbath discussion. Yes, it's a healing story and it's miraculous on its own, but he does this on the Sabbath. Actually, another Sabbath. It's on another Sabbath, which contributes, as I said for the 5th chapter, it contributes to this idea that these are stories just collected together. Whether they happened in this order, whether they happened within proximity to one another is uncertain. These are just things that Luke knows about Jesus. He's heard about Jesus. Maybe he's jotted them down on various scraps of parchment, on the back of an envelope kind of thing, and he's putting them into one proper record. Okay? Because he heals in the synagogue on the Sabbath, and his quest, you've just done work. You've healed. That's work. And again, the rule is not there for the sake of the rule, right? It is there to build up the kingdom. And in this case, building up the kingdom means healing, right? Then he chooses the 12. Now, he's called disciples. He called Levi. He called Simon. So we clearly, by this point, he's gathered a group around him. We hear that there were so many people trying to hear his teaching that the people had to break through the roof to lower their friend in to be cured, right? So there's a lot of people around him. Well, here he's going to select the 12. And as I said yesterday, this is about calling together, putting together that which had splintered, which had been scattered, diabolane, the scattering, right? This is the antidote to the satanic, to the demonic, the diablo, the devil, rather than to scatter, to gather together. So the 12 representing the 12 tribes of Israel, right? Because that's where he's starting. This is a mission to the whole world, but that's where he is starting. And he gathers them together, and they are named. Now, these names are different in different texts, right? We've heard Levi called as a tax collector. In Matthew's gospel account, it's Matthew who's called from the tax booth, and Levi doesn't show up in this list of disciples, and so it is likely that Levi and Matthew are the same person, right? It's like these are the same folks. Interestingly, Levi is listed as the son of Alphaeus, and here James is listed as the son of Alphaeus. James the Lesser, what a name, hey? He's not called the Lesser in here, but the tradition calls him James the Lesser. Lesser in accomplishment, lesser in renown. Certainly in God's kingdom, all are equal. So probably not, something that, well, the TV show The Chosen gets around this by calling him Little James because the other James is a big, tall guy. It's a cute, Simon, whom he named Peter, and his brother Andrew and James and John. James and John, these are the sons of thunder there. And Philip and Bartholomew, who you will also see named as Nathaniel in John's Gospel, and Matthew and Thomas and James, son of Alphaeus, and Simon, who was called the Zealot, and Judas, son of James. Now, probably not one of the Jameses in this list, but another James. It's a relatively common name. James is an anglicized version of Jacob. And Jacob obviously is a famous name from Jewish history, so there would have been a lot of people, a lot of guys running around named Jacob, James. And Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. So poor Judas, son of James, also sometimes known as Thaddeus, poor Judas, who shares a name with the traitor. And, you always like, no, not that Judas. No, I'm not that Judas. That was some other Judas. It wasn't me. I have these images. Then we have Jesus is going on a teaching and healing mission here, right? On a level place. In Matthew, he's on a high place, the mountain. Luke is telling it as a level place. Did he have a different source? Did he hear about a different event? It may be more of a theological point than anything. Matthew, he goes on a mountain because that is where the Jewish people received the law, and Jesus is up the Sermon on the Mount delivering his interpretation, his expansion of the law. And Luke is far more concerned about incarnational, down-to-earth, and so Jesus is on a level place. We do know that Matthew and Luke drew from the same source material, because we get into the next thing is blessings and woes, which in Matthew's Gospel, the 5th chapter, you'd know as the Beatitudes. Blessed are the meek, etc. Well, Luke has these as well. Again, they drew from the same source. They're slightly different. You can read and find out how. And then, so having taught that, blessed are the meek, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are those who the world thinks are unfortunate. In fact, in God's kingdom, they are fortunate. Blessed are they. So having inverted logic there, right? The world's logic being, if you're hungry, then you're unfortunate. No, you're blessed, right? Then he goes on to say, love your enemies, right? And the world would say, hate your enemies, oppose your enemies, defeat your enemies, love your friends, love your family. Well, Jesus is saying that's no big deal to love your friends and family. Love your enemies. Love the people who hate you, right? That's the real test of love. Then, hand in glove with that, don't judge other people. Don't judge other people, right? Don't judge, don't condemn, forgive, etc. Give, and it will be given to you. He's negotiating this reversal of logic by saying it's not up to us to judge. Well, it's up to him to judge. It's not up to us to judge. It's not up to humans to judge one another. The judgment comes from God. So, that we don't condemn. It doesn't mean, and I have to say, not condemning someone doesn't mean that you embrace them either, right? If someone is violent, if they are untruthful, if they're toxic, to use the modern buzzword, it doesn't mean embrace them and run to them. You can not judge them and still say, it's best for me not to be around that person, right? But at any rate, this is negotiating that love of enemy. And then he speaks about the tree and the fruit of the tree, right? That is the fruit that tells you what kind of tree it is. You could stand there all year and say, that's an apple tree, that's an apple tree, that's an apple tree. But if at harvest time it gives out peaches, then clearly it's a peach tree, right? So someone can say, I'm righteous and good, I am decent and honorable, and then their deeds prove otherwise. Right? We finish with the foundations, someone building their house on rock, or someone building their house on sand. So we have a whole lot of teaching, and then Jesus says this is the foundation on which to build, right? Loving your enemy, that the economy in God's kingdom is the reverse of what the world thinks it is. To not judge. These are the foundations on which you should start to build, right? This is early teaching. It's still the 6th chapter out of 24, so there's a long way to go. But here he's laying the foundation, and this is what you should build on. If you hear the words and you don't obey them, you don't listen to them, you don't live your life by them, then you're building your house on sand, and it will be washed away. Right? So there's the 6th chapter. Oop, I closed it without the bookmark. I bet I can find it again because it's laid out very nicely. All right. So there's the 6th chapter. I'll put the bookmark, a lovely bookmark that, what was it? It was Amy, my wife, made this, I'm pretty sure. So I've had it for so long, but I'm pretty sure it was Amy. Yeah, little ribbon on it. Yeah. Put that in for chapter 7 tomorrow. But you have a good rest of your Feast of St. Nicholas. Check your shoes for chocolate. If there's none there, go down to the store, buy yourself some chocolate today. God bless you.